The last traces of sunset painted the New Mexico desert in shades of amber when Commander Vexther's ship touched down behind an abandoned research facility. The tall, crystalline being emerged from his vessel, his translucent form catching the dying light as he dragged a containment pod across the sand. Inside, a creature unlike anything Earth had seen before huddled in the corner, its iridescent scales shifting colors with each labored breath. "Inconvenient burden," Vexther muttered, his voice like grinding crystal. The creature inside, a rare luminary, had been an unexpected discovery during his latest resource expedition. Now heavy with child, it threatened to compromise his entire operation. The High Council would never approve of his methods if they knew he'd been raiding protected sectors. With practiced efficiency, he deactivated the pod's life support systems. The desert would handle the rest. No one would find it here, and even if they did, who would believe a creature that seemed to be made of living starlight? Dr. Elena Martinez had other plans for the universe that night. Working late at her private veterinary clinic just a mile away, she witnessed the strange lights in the sky. Most people would have dismissed them as weather balloons or military exercises, common explanations in this part of New Mexico. But Elena had spent too many nights studying unusual animal behaviors and unexplained phenomena to ignore her instincts. Taking her old Jeep, she followed the fatting trail of otherworldly light. The tracks in the sand led her to something that defied everything she knew about terrestrial biology. The creature lay curled in the remains of what appeared to be some kind of technological cocoon, its body emanating a soft, pulsing glow. What caught Elena's attention wasn't just its alien appearance, but the unmistakable signs of pregnancy she recognized from years of veterinary work. "Oh my God," she whispered, approaching carefully. The creature's eyes opened, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle revealing pupils that sparkled like captured galaxies. It made a sound somewhere between a song and a plea, reaching out with a delicate limb that seemed to be made of pure light. Elena had treated everything from injured coyotes to abandoned exotic pets, but this was different. This was first contact, and someone had deliberately left this being to die. Her medical scanner revealed critical signs of dehydration and temperature fluctuation. The creature's pregnancy appeared to be in a delicate stage, requiring immediate attention. "I don't know what you are," Elena said softly, preparing the emergency blankets and portable equipment from her Jeep, "but I'm not leaving you out here to die." The creature understood more than Elena realized. Through its species' inherent empathic abilities, it sensed her genuine concern. Its kind, the Luminari, had long debated whether primitive species could possess true empathy. Yet here was this human, ready to risk everything to help an alien being. As Elena carefully loaded the creature into her Jeep, a satellite belonging to the mysterious Department of Extraterrestrial Research and Defense captured the entire scene. In a secure facility thousands of miles away, Director Marcus Hammond watched the footage with growing interest. "Find out everything about this vet," he commanded, "and prepare containment protocols." Back at her clinic, Elena converted her largest examination room into a secure ward, using specialized UV lamps to maintain the creature's unique biological needs. She worked through the night, monitoring vital signs she barely understood and documenting everything. The creature's body temperature regulated through bioluminescent pulses, and its circulatory system seemed to flow like liquid starlight through transparent vessels. By dawn, Elena had made a decision that would change both human and alien history. She would not only save this creature, but protect it and its unborn child from whatever forces had abandoned them here. She didn't yet know about Commander Vexther's illegal operations, the approaching DERD agents, or how her simple act of compassion would soon challenge humanity's place in the galactic community. What she did know was that every life deserved a chance, no matter how alien it might appear. As the creature finally drifted into a peaceful sleep under her care, its glow synchronizing with the rhythm of Earth's magnetic field, Elena began to understand that she had stumbled upon something that would prove humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology or weapons, but its capacity for compassion. 2 weeks passed in a blur of sleepless nights and incredible discoveries. Dr. Elena Martinez had transformed the back of her veterinary clinic into a sophisticated alien maternity ward, using everything from modified incubators to specially calibrated light therapy equipment. The Luminari, whom she'd begun calling Nova, was recovering steadily. Through a combination of drawings, gestures, and the creature's natural empathic abilities, they developed a rudimentary form of communication. Nova had conveyed fragments of her story, her capture, the cruel treatment by Commander Vexther, and her fear for her unborn child. What troubled Alina most was learning that Nova's species was actually highly advanced, suggesting her abandonment was no accident, but rather a calculated crime. One evening, while checking Nova's vital signs, Alina noticed unusual energy readings on her equipment. The pregnant alien's bioluminescence had begun pulsing in complex patterns, creating intricate geometric shapes in the air around her. Through their emerging bond, Nova conveyed that her child was developing rapidly, already displaying the powerful energy manipulation abilities characteristic of their species. "We need to keep you hidden," Alina murmured, adjusting the clinic's security systems. She'd already installed blackout curtains and signal scramblers bought with cash from her savings. Her regular clients were told the back room was under renovation. Only her trusted assistant, Dr. James Powell, knew the truth, and even he had needed several stiff drinks to process it. "You're either crazy or about to win a Nobel Prize," James said, helping Alina calibrate new monitoring equipment. "Probably both." His expertise in exotic animal medicine had proved invaluable, though nothing in veterinary school had prepared them for a pregnant alien that seemed to be made of living light. That night, their precautions proved necessary. 2 black SUVs cruised slowly past the clinic, their windows tinted beyond legal limits. Alina watched them through the security cameras, her heart pounding. Nova sensed her anxiety and dimmed her natural glow, understanding the need for secrecy. Inside the lead vehicle, DERD agent Olivia Pierce reviewed Dr. Martinez's file. Distinguished veterinarian, specialized in exotic animals, no family, lives alone above her clinic. Perfect cover for harboring extraterrestrial life. She spoke into her comm unit. "Continue surveillance, but maintain distance. We need to confirm the target before moving in." What the DERD agents didn't know was that they weren't the only ones watching. High above Earth's atmosphere, Commander Vexther's ship maintained a stealth orbit. His initial plan to abandon the Luminari had backfired spectacularly. Instead of a quiet death in the desert, the creature had found protection with a human, of all things. Worse, his sensors indicated the unborn child was extraordinarily powerful, potentially enough to expose his illegal activities across 3 sectors. "Prepare for extraction," he commanded his crew. "We'll need to eliminate all evidence and all witnesses." Back at the clinic, Alina worked to solve a pressing problem. Nova's pregnancy was progressing faster than expected, and the energy readings were becoming harder to conceal. They needed a more secure location, but moving an alien that glowed like a small sun presented obvious challenges. James arrived with supplies and troubling news. "I've been monitoring chatter on emergency frequencies," he said, setting down bags of specialized equipment. "There's been unusual activity reported in the area, military maybe or something else. They're looking for something." Alina watched Nova creating small dancing lights to amuse herself, a habit that reminded her more of a playful cat than a stranded alien. The sight strengthened her resolve. "We're not letting them find her," she declared. "Nova trusted us with her life and her baby's life. We're going to honor that trust." Working through the night, they modified a mobile medical transport vehicle, fitting it with the same light-dampening technology they'd used in the clinic. Alina knew they were racing against time on multiple fronts: Nova's advancing pregnancy, the closing net of government agents, and unknown to them, an approaching alien threat. Nova watched their preparations with her 3 luminous eyes, understanding more than they realized. Through her species' natural ability to perceive quantum fluctuations, she could sense the converging threads of fate. The human's compassion had surprised her, defying everything her people believed about developing species. Now she faced a decision that would affect not only her future, but potentially the relationship between her species and humanity. As dawn approached, Alina finalized their plans for relocating to an abandoned observatory in the mountains. The facility's remote location, and existing astronomical equipment would help mask Nova's energy signatures. But as she watched the alien create increasingly complex light patterns, a sign of her growing strength, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were all part of something much bigger than a simple rescue. "Whatever happens," she promised Nova, "we're going to make sure you and your baby are safe." The alien's response was to create a small galaxy of lights around Elena's head, like a crown of stars, a gesture that in her culture symbolized an unbreakable bond of trust. The old mountain observatory loomed against the pre-dawn sky, its dome gleaming faintly in the starlight. Elena guided the modified medical transport along the winding road, constantly checking the energy-dampening systems. In the back, Nova's glow pulsed with increasing intensity, a sign that her pregnancy was advancing faster than they'd anticipated. James followed in Elena's jeep, monitoring their communication frequencies for any sign of pursuit. They'd chosen 3 in the morning for the move, hopping to avoid both civilian traffic and government surveillance. But halfway up the mountain, his radio crackled with an urgent warning. "Elena, we've got company. 2 helicopters just departed from the direction of White Sands. They're running dark." The DERD had finally made their move. Agent Pierce stood in one of the helicopters, watching thermal and energy readings on specialized equipment. "Target is showing unprecedented energy signatures," she reported. "All units converge on the mountain road. Remember, this is a capture operation. We need the asset alive." What none of them had detected was the subtle distortion in the night sky above them. Commander Vexter's ship hung there, cloaked by advanced technology, its weapons systems locked onto the small convoy. "The child's energy signature is becoming unstable," his science officer reported. "If it continues to develop at this rate, it will soon be detectable by even primitive human scanners." "Then we end this now," Vexter commanded, his crystalline form glinting as he activated the ship's main cannon. Inside the transport, Nova suddenly became agitated. Her 3 eyes widened, and the air around her filled with complex patterns of light. Through their empathic connection, Elena felt a wave of urgent warning. Something was coming, something worse than the approaching helicopters. The first energy blast from Vexter's ship struck the road ahead of them, turning asphalt into molten slag. Elena swerved, the transport's tires screaming as she barely kept them from plunging over the edge. Behind them, James's jeep skidded to a halt. "We've got bigger problems than the government," Elena shouted into her radio. The night sky shimmered as Vexter's ship partially decloaked, its massive form blocking out the stars. The DERD helicopters scattered, their pilots suddenly facing technology far beyond their experience. Nova's reaction surprised them all. As another energy blast illuminated the night, her body began to glow with unprecedented intensity. The transport's dampening systems overloaded and failed. Through their mental link, Elena understood Nova wasn't just afraid, she was angry. This was the being who had imprisoned her, who had planned to let her and her unborn child die in the desert. The pregnant luminary rose, her form now blazing like a newborn star. Energy coursed through the transport, but instead of destroying it, it formed a protective bubble around the vehicle. When Vexter's next blast struck, it dissipated harmlessly against Nova's shield. "Impossible," Vexter hissed. "A mere breeder shouldn't have this much power." But he had fatally underestimated both Nova and the effects of her pregnancy. The Luminari were known for their ability to manipulate energy, but a pregnant female could also draw power from her developing child. Nova was now channeling the combined energy of 2 beings. Agent Pierce watched in awe from her helicopter as the alien light show unfolded. Her orders had been to capture and contain, but this was beyond anything they'd prepared for. She made a decision that would later change DERD's entire approach to extraterrestrial contact. "All units stand down," she commanded. "Switch to observation only." The night erupted in a spectacular display as Nova launched her own attack. Beams of pure energy lanced up from the transport, striking Vexter's ship with pinpoint accuracy. The vessel's shields flared and failed. Inside, alarms blared as systems began to overload. But the display of power was taking its toll. Elena could feel Nova weakening through their connection. The pregnancy was too far along for this kind of energy expenditure. They needed to end this quickly, or both Nova and her child would be at risk. James, showing remarkable courage, drove his jeep straight toward the transport. "The observatory," he shouted over the radio. "It's old defense systems, we can use them." Alina understood immediately. The observatory had been a government facility during the Cold War, equipped with experimental energy weapons that had never been dismantled. If they could reach it, they might have a chance. Nova seemed to sense their plan. Her protective shield extended to encompass James's jeep as they made a desperate dash up the mountain road. Vexther's damaged ship pursued them, firing erratically. The DERD helicopters followed at a safe distance, their instruments recording everything. As they approached the observatory, Alina realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. They were about to reveal irrefutable proof of alien life to the world. More importantly, they were about to demonstrate that humanity's first significant interaction with extraterrestrial life wasn't about conquest or fear, but about protection and compassion. Nova's light dimmed slightly, and through their connection, Alina felt something new, the first stirrings of the alien child, responding to its mother's power. The real question now wasn't whether they would survive the night, but what would happen when that child finally entered the world. The observatory's massive dome groaned as Alina and James activated its long-dormant systems. Ancient generators rumbled to life deep beneath the mountain, powering up equipment that hadn't been used in decades. Nova lay in the center of the main chamber, her light pulsing in rapid, irregular patterns that filled the space with dancing shadows. "The baby's coming," Alina announced, her voice tight with concern. She could feel Nova's pain and fear through their empathic link, but also something else, a tremendous surge of energy building within the alien's body. The air itself seemed to crackle with potential. Above them, Vexther's damaged ship held position, its weapons powering up for a final assault. The commander's crystalline form had developed cracks from the strain of maintaining control. "If I cannot have the child," he transmitted, "then none shall have it. Your primitive facility cannot withstand a full power blast." But James had made a discovery. The observatory's original purpose hadn't been just astronomical research. It had been designed to track and, if necessary, respond to objects from space. "Alina," he called from the control room, "these aren't just tracking systems. There's something called Project Starshield here." As if responding to the name, panels in the observatory's walls slid open, revealing arrays of crystalline formations suspiciously similar to Vexther's own technology. Nova's three eyes widened in recognition. Her people had visited Earth before, long ago. They had left behind gifts, waiting for humanity to prove worthy of them. Agent Pierce and her DERD team had established a perimeter around the observatory. Through their surveillance equipment, they watched in amazement as the old facility transformed. The dome split apart like a blooming flower, its petals revealing a network of crystal matrices that began to pulse in harmony with Nova's own light. "My God," Pierce whispered, "we didn't build this place, we just built around it." Nova's labor intensified. The crystal arrays responded to her energy signature, creating a protective field that enveloped the entire observatory. When Vexther fired his ship's main weapon, the blast was absorbed and redirected into the mountain's bedrock, causing the ground to shake but leaving the facility untouched. Inside, Alina worked desperately to help Nova through the birth. Her veterinary experience, while extensive, had never prepared her for anything like this. The alien's body was becoming increasingly luminous, approaching the brightness of a small sun. James had to wear protective gear just to operate the observatory's controls. "The crystals," Nova communicated through their link, sharing images of her world. "They amplify, direct, protect." It was the clearest message she had ever sent, and Alina suddenly understood. The observatory wasn't just a defensive facility, it was a birthing chamber designed eons ago for this exact purpose. Through the observatory systems, James detected new signals. "More ships entering orbit," he reported, "but these are different. They're luminary vessels." Nova's people had finally tracked her down, drawn by the energy signature of her labor. But they held position, watching, waiting to see how humanity would handle this moment. Their arrival hadn't gone unnoticed. Across the globe, astronomical instruments recorded their presence. The secret of alien life was about to become impossible to contain. In orbit, Vexter recognized the Luminari ships. His illegal operations, his cruel treatment of Nova, everything would be exposed. In desperation, he directed all power to his weapons, preparing to destroy the observatory and everyone in it, regardless of the consequences. But at that crucial moment, Nova's child chose to enter the world. The birth itself was unlike anything in human experience, a burst of pure energy that momentarily outshone the stars. The observatory's crystal matrices captured and channeled the energy, creating a display visible for hundreds of miles. Where the light touched, people stopped and stared, knowing instinctively that they were witnessing something extraordinary. The newborn luminary hung suspended in the air above its mother, its form shifting between solid and pure light. 3 eyes, like its mother's, opened for the first time, taking in the world of its birth. But unlike any luminary before it, the child's energy signature carried traces of something new, patterns that matched Earth's own magnetic field. It had been influenced by its time here, becoming a bridge between 2 worlds. Through their mental link, Alina felt Nova's joy and triumph. But she also sensed something urgent. This birth was more than just a new life. It was a test, orchestrated by forces beyond their understanding, to judge humanity's capacity for compassion and growth. As dawn approached, 3 groups faced a choice that would shape the future of human-alien relations. Vexter in his failing ship, the watching Luminari fleet, and Agent Pierce with her DERD teams. The next few moments would determine whether humanity's first official contact with alien life would begin with violence or understanding. The first rays of sunrise painted the sky in brilliant colors as the newborn luminary child floated above the observatory, its light merging with the dawn. Below, Nova had recovered enough strength to stand, her form glowing with maternal pride. The observatory's crystal matrices hummed with energy, maintaining a protective field around the facility. In orbit, the luminary ships finally moved, descending through the atmosphere with impossible grace. Their arrival forced Vexter's hand. His damaged ship, systems failing, could no longer maintain both weapons and life support. The crystalline commander faced a choice between surrender and self-destruction. "Your laws mean nothing to me," he broadcast defiantly, diverting all remaining power to his weapon systems. "I will not be judged by lesser beings." But before he could fire, his ship system suddenly failed completely. The newborn luminary child, acting on instinct, had reached out with its powers and touched the vessel's crystal-based technology. Through its unique connection to Earth's magnetic field, it could interface with the ship's systems in ways even Vexter couldn't counter. The commander's ship began to fall from the sky, its engine core dark. Agent Pierce, watching from the ground, made a decision that would define her career. "All DERD units engage rescue protocols," she commanded. "That ship's going down, and we're not letting it crash, even if it is hostile." Alina felt Nova's surprise through their link. The Luminari had expected many possible human reactions to first contact, but rushing to save an enemy hadn't been one of them. Even as DERD teams deployed experimental gravity dampeners to slow Vexter's descent, the Luminari ships landed around the observatory. The beings that emerged were similar to Nova but larger, their forms shifting between solid and pure light. They approached the facility with ceremonial grace, but stopped short of the protective field. Through the crystal matrices, they broadcast a message in perfect English. "We are the Council of Light. We have watched and waited, seeding the stars with our technology, testing species who might one day join us. Today, humanity has been tested." James and Alina exchanged glances. Nova's abandonment, the observatory's true nature, even the birth, it had all been orchestrated. But the human response hadn't been planned. That had been genuine. The council continued. "For millennia, we have sought other species worthy of sharing the stars. Most failed our test, responding with fear, violence, or greed. But you—" The lead council member gestured to Alina, to James, to the DERD teams still working to save their enemy. You chose compassion. Even now, you save one who would have destroyed you. Vexther's ship touched down safely, surrounded by DERD vehicles. The commander was taken into custody, not by the Luminari, but by Agent Pierce. He committed crimes on Earth, she stated firmly to the Council. He'll answer for them under Earth's laws first. The Council's approval was palpable. Nova's child drifted down to hover between the two groups, human and Luminari. Its unique energy signature a physical representation of the bridge being built between the species. Through their mental link, Nova shared with Alina the full truth. The Luminari hadn't just been testing humanity's response to an abandoned alien. They had been testing humanity's capacity for growth, for connection, for rising above fear and hatred to embrace something new. The child is more than my offspring, Nova communicated. It is the first of a new generation, born of the stars but shaped by Earth's influence. Through it, our species can learn from each other. The Council of Light formally extended an invitation for Earth to join the galactic community. But they did so not through the world's governments or military leaders, but through Alina, a simple veterinarian who had chosen compassion over fear. Your science will advance, your understanding will grow, the Council proclaimed. But never forget what brought you to this moment. It was not weapons or technology that proved your worth. It was the choice of one human to show kindness to a stranger from the stars. As the sun rose fully over the mountain, Alina stood with James and Agent Pierce, watching Nova and her child join their people. But this wasn't a goodbye. The observatory would become Earth's first alien embassy, with Alina as humanity's appointed ambassador. The crystal matrices that had protected them would now serve as a beacon, guiding others of good intent to Earth. The newborn Luminari child created one final display before departing, a shower of lights that spelled out words in the sky visible for miles. Compassion transcends stars. In the years that followed, humanity would take its first steps into a larger universe. Ships would be built, alliances formed, and discoveries made. But in every human colony and on every explored world, the story would be told of how humanity earned its place among the stars, not through conquest or technology, but through the simple, powerful choice to help a stranger in need. The universe, it turned out, had been waiting not for humanity to become more advanced, but for humanity to prove it could advance without losing its heart.